Welcome back. My name is Brandon, and today we've got a really fun episode. We're going to be doing something a little bit different than we normally see on this channel. We're going to be working on a customer's project, which is going to involve some milling of aluminum, and we're going to do it using a router. Stick around. What you're looking at here is this is a piece of 2x3 aluminum that the customer brought me. The best type of customer is a repeat business customer, and that's who this is. They recently brought in some security window grates that they needed resized. I resized them for them. I'll have a link to that video. This is also a security measure for their business. Apparently they have a double door. This fits in like some tracks almost to prevent the door from opening inwards. The owner needs a couple things done. They want these trimmed up and straightened out a little bit better. You can see they're a little wavy. I thought about this, and at first I told them I didn't think I could do it because I didn't have a mill, but then I kind of thought it through, and we'll discuss a couple different ways that we can do this. They made a mark right here and here, and they want a 2x2 plate, 1/4 inch thick, cut and welded on the top of this at both of these areas. And they want the same thing done over here. They want this trued up and cleaned up a little bit better. I don't know if this can be cut back a little bit further because it looks like they cut into this side a little bit, but I will find out if we can straighten that out. But let's get to going, and I will show you exactly how we're going to mill this piece out. First thing I'm going to do is get this clamped to my table so we got a nice solid work surface. There. So as I thought about this, on how to get this true, I started thinking, well, I could set the blade height on a table saw and then run this through it, you know, so that the blade is up whatever this is, 5/8 of an inch, and then just keep passing this through the blade until all of this material is removed. Another way we could do it is set the blade depth on a circular saw for say 5/8, and then just keep making consecutive passes through this until we've removed all the material that we need to remove. But better yet, I'm going to use a router. Because you can use pretty much all woodworking tools to mill aluminum. So this is going to work great. This is what I'm using for a bit. It's just a carbide bit. And I've set the depth to the depth of my lowest point in this material. And he said that I could even remove 1/8 of an inch if I needed to. So if you look down in there, you'll see how that is just touching that material down in there with that blade. But if we come over here, it's hitting it. And then we keep coming over here, it keeps continuing to hit it all the way. Same thing on this side. It's hitting it over here, hits it all the way along it. So that's the first thing that we're going to do. I told him that at first I didn't think I could do it, but then the more I thought about it, I found a way to do it. I hate taking on jobs that I can only do a little bit of it. I said, well, yeah, I can weld on these tabs. Where that X is right there, he wants that milled down by about 1/16 of an inch, and he said that I could just use a belt sander to do that. I think we're going to use the router to do it. So initially I told him, yeah, I can weld these tabs on, that's not a problem. I can mill that little end down. But I told him I didn't think I could do these. And I hate taking on a project where I can't do all of it, because I want a happy customer, but I also want to be able to do it the right way, and I don't want to end up screwing something up, saying I can do something and not being able to do it. So I know that I can do this. This is easily capable of doing it. It just took me a minute to kind of work through the process of how I could go about doing this. I've checked these for squareness. These are good. You can see that there. So I don't necessarily have to make the openings a little more truer. This is going to be good enough here. It's just really cleaning up these corners down in here, squaring them up, and just making it overall look a little bit better. And I know that we can do that. So let's get geared up, and this will be the first thing that we work on. I like to show you these things because these are projects, you know, if you're breaking out on your own, that you may come across yourself and, you know, scratch your head like I did of how can I do this? You know, how can I give my customer a job that they want without, you know, turning down the job or only doing a little bit of it. And this is how I came up with it.
Towards the end of this video, I'll have some pictures that you guys can look at so you can see all of this stuff that we're building. You can actually see what it looks like completely installed. But I'm just going at this nice and slow, taking it nice and easy, and I'm not sure if I explained this in the video or not, but pretty much any woodworking tool that you'd use to cut wood, as long as it's carbide, you can use it to cut aluminum. That's why aluminum is just so fun to work with. And I could also be using a little bit of cutting fluid to help keep the blade a little bit cooler, which would help keep it a little bit sharper. But for something like this, it's really not necessary. And as I mentioned, these bits aren't overly expensive anyways.
I think that came out really good. Got that nice and flat in through there. They're obviously now even on both sides. These corners now are trued up a little more square, and we can just take a little file and clean up all around here just to make sure that all the edges feel nice and smooth. But I think that's a lot better than it was, and I think that'll make him happy. I don't know if he needs me to go back further, but I can find out. But for now, let's flip this around. That side has a lot deeper trench in it for some reason. We'll just reset the saw up and I'll show you how I did it. First thing I'll do is check, see if my slots are square. They are. That's square there. Yep, that looks good there. I'll tell you what, there are some advantages to this digital age, because I was able to just take a quick picture to ask my customer, can I come over to clean up this little area here, or is this like some critical width that he needed for this area? He said, nope, go right ahead. You can go over, clean this up. So we're going to enlarge this opening a little bit, which will allow us to clean up this. And he said, you know, assuming that we're going to be doing this side as well, which we are. So we'll clean this up, make this look real nice for him. Start by putting some lines on there that we can see, that we can go by. Clamp this down again, a nice solid work surface. There's a couple ways you could do this. You could build like a little track that allowed you to cut this, but I think we're just going to freehand it. We shouldn't have any problems doing that. Alright, so there's our new mark that we need to open this up to. And the way that I find the depth of this is actually pretty simple. All I do is find the lowest area that there is, and then, or what I think is the lowest area, and then just kind of like move it along the material, and then see if it happens to open up anywhere. If I find a place that it'll actually slide through, then I actually go and change the depth to a little bit deeper. Like I said, he told me I could actually take 1/8 of an inch deep out of this without a problem at all. Alright, we're going to do the same thing over here. Clean this up a little bit. Alright, that came out pretty good. This also happens to be the side that they want milled out a little bit thinner over here on this little tab by about half. He said you can take a belt sander, but I think I'm just going to go over it with that bit because this is working really nice. But you can see how nice and squared up everything is. These are all nicely notched out. What I'll do is after is just take a hand file and go over everything so there's no sharp edges. This looks really good. We'll get this milled down. So what we're going to have to do is put on a sacrificial piece that goes on to each side, because as I mill this down, you can see this side of this base needs something to ride on. As I mill this down, it's just going to keep dropping. So what we need to do is just clamp something to the side of this that'll act like a bed for this to ride on. All right, now we'll set the height so we can get this milled out. Probably that's going to be pretty good right about there. I don't want to go too deep because I don't want to take away too much material here and have it become weakened. Apparently by milling this down, what that's going to do is make it easier for him to slip it in and out of the little hooks that barricade the door. Okay, got the little sled set up, and I've just clamped a couple pieces of wood, made it flush to the top of this aluminum, clamped it here, and then I just let it hang over a little bit here. Again, making sure it's all flush down here so that when this is sliding back and forth, routing out that material underneath, that when it gets over to here, it still has something holding up that ledge, you know, holding up this front edge of this router so it just doesn't dip down in after it starts cutting this material. And it goes without saying, guys, that aluminum is really toxic. It's not good to breathe, so make sure you're wearing yourself a respirator. As you can see, this stuff just like flies all through the air. It's almost like sawdust. It just goes everywhere when you start milling and cutting it. So, you know, anytime you're working with aluminum, grinding, cutting, welding, make sure you're wearing a respirator. It's just really bad for you. And because of that, I got hearing protection on because it's loud whenever you're grinding on metal. And I've also got a face shield just because this material is just flying everywhere.
That came out awesome, guys. That is smooth, smooth, smooth. I think he's going to love that.
Now, assuming that this little scrap piece of metal is our straight edge, if I hold down on that, you can see that gap that opened up there for him. That'll make getting this in and out of that bracket a lot easier. And it's got a nice finish, almost like a milling machine, but really smooth. Nice and clean, nice square edges. I think he's going to be real happy with this. All right, with all my milling operations done, now we're just going to go over everything with a file real lightly and just make sure everything's nice and deburred, no sharp edges. Last thing you want is your customer getting cut on something that you did. I'm really happy how these came out, guys, and I think he is going to be too. They just look like really square. Everything is flat now. It just gives a much better appearance. And now I've got everything all just touched with a file. Now we got to weld on those little plates. So like I said, he brought some 2-inch flat bar by 1/8 inch thick. So he wants me to cut them 2 inches long to span this, and then stack them up. So 1/8 and 1/8 is 1/4 inch. So we're going to cut, you know, 2 plates here. They'll be stacked on top of each other, just welded on the sides. So if you could picture a set of double doors that swing in to the room like this bar drops down into like some hooks on the wall to prevent the door from being kicked in. Apparently these plates that we're welding on here, what that does is that it's going to allow the door to not open up 1/4 inch, because I guess what he's concerned with is if there's any play in this door opening up, that somebody could get like a pry bar in there or something like that. So he's just trying to like tighten up this, so when this bar is in against the door, everything is like really tight and there's no wiggle room to like drive a pry bar in or something like that. The guy that brought this is a firearms dealer, so he's just trying to make sure that his shop is secure. I think he got a new shop, or I don't really know. He brought me this stuff and just told me what he wanted, so that's what I'm building. Nothing is foolproof, but obviously what he's having me do here is going to make it that little bit much better, and that's what he's looking for. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to set the saw up, because like I said, I got to cut 4 of these. This is 1/8 inch flat bar, 2 inches wide. So the easiest way to do that is, we know it's 2 inch width here. I'm going to set up a stop block by just using this piece of metal right here, and I'm just going to hold this so that blade is just making contact with the side of this material, so I know that this stop block is 2 inches away from the blade. So we'll snug that down, and then when we want to make our cuts, we just bump this flat bar against our stop block, make the cut, and then bump it against the stop block again, and it'll make repetitive cuts so that they're all the exact same length. This edge looks a little beat up and rough, so I'm going to make my first cut just shaving off about a blade's width off that, just to get a nice straight edge. It's as simple as this, guys. Bump it over. I'm going to put a material stop here, just so it doesn't flick the piece out the back. It'll just make it that much safer. Just like that, and cut. So the next step is we've got to prep this aluminum and get the, the little burr off the edge, clean it down, and then clean up this on each side where our weld is going to go. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to use a stainless steel wire wheel that we only use with aluminum. I mark it on there so that it doesn't contaminate. So if you end up using this on steel and then back to aluminum, you're going to get oxides in your aluminum and you're going to have a problem. So let's get this stuff prepped. And yeah, I ended up cutting myself, scraping off these foolish stickers on this aluminum. You would think I would learn my lesson by now, but still, nope, slow learner. Now if you notice, whenever I clamp this stuff, I always try to put a little pad underneath the material, underneath my clamp, so that when I'm clamping down, it doesn't leave this little ring right here. You can see, I don't know if you can see it right here. I didn't use the clamp and it made a little ring in that. So we really want to try to avoid that. So that's why we put down a little pad underneath our clamp. That will go just like this with that hole in it, so that way we don't have to worry about that, and that will sit right on top just like that. We'll actually clamp it down right now, and then we'll get it cleaned down with some acetone before we weld. I figured I'd show you my settings, and for this I am using my Yes Welder 211P. I'm at 17.9 volts, 102 amps. I'm not pulsing this. I have a run-in set for 7 and an inductance of 0. I'm using a spool gun with 35 thousandths 4043 aluminum Blue Demon wire, and I'm just going to run a bead across here. These have no, like I said, these don't have any strength. All it is just a filler to fill up a gap. So all we need to do is get a little bead here, a little bead on this side, and that'll be plenty. Alright, there's one down. Another one to go. And so that we're centered left and right, you know, this way, just going to put these little sideboards on there. And then give it a little clamp. Just like that. Then we'll throw a clamp on the top to hold everything down. Just like that. Now we can remove these sideboards. So now we know the face of this is nice and flush. And whenever you're MIG welding aluminum, you always want to try to be pushing it if you can. It'll give you a cleaner weld puddle. And here it is, guys. I really wanted to use that welder right there because that has a double pulse function, but I'm trying to get this done. This customer's leaving and going out of town, and I'm really trying to get this done for him, so he'll have it in time so he can secure his facility. It's not my best work that I've ever done, but it's going to work exactly as it needs to, and it's a lot better than it was.
And here are some pictures that the customer sent me. Here you can see that bar completely installed, spanning both doors. And then in this clip you can see those tabs that we welded on that filled up that void. And then the final clip, those notches that we made around the trim, and then the end that we milled out.
And that's all there is to it, guys. Hopefully you guys picked up on a few tips and tricks of metal fabrication and things that you can do to get through the project so that you can tell your customer that you can do all of it, not just a little portion of it. If you're wondering about any of the tools that you see me using, I'll have links down below. Until next week, guys, I will see you then. Take care, stay safe, and God bless. And if this is something you like, I'd appreciate like, comment, and subscribe. And thanks, guys. See ya.